Welcome again, everybody, to the first Gauteng chapter hosted SAFMA webinar for 2021. Yes, we have been a little slow on the update from the Gauteng chapter, but we hope to be catching up very soon. We welcome all of our guest speakers today, as well as our chairman, Dumisani Malenga, who is also part of today's webinar. And we'd also obviously like to introduce to you our topic for today. The topic for today is, what is the role of facilities management in business? So how is it that we change the perception of the FM role in a COVID pandemic world, considering all of the general FM perceptions? That is, how are we as FMs perceived by our clients, our customers, and our service providers? And what is the strategic role of FM in business? And how do we align ourselves better with our clients and customers? I would then like to introduce myself. I am Yvette Momsen. I am the National Facilities Manager for Mazur at the Med Scheme contract, and I am also a committee member of the Gauteng chapter of SAFMA. My co-host today is Gina, and over to you, Gina.
Hello and good morning, good afternoon to everybody that's joined us. Thank you for joining us. I'm really excited to hear what our speakers have for us in store today. To introduce myself, again, I am Gina. I work for KPMG. I'm the National Facilities Manager at KPMG. I'm also a member of the South African SAFMA chapter. So quite keen to hear what's happening. Over to you, Yvette.
Apologies for that. First up, I'm going to introduce our guest speakers for today. To introduce them briefly, the first speaker up will be Mohali Majola. Mohali is the Head of Engineering for Bidvest Facilities Management. Welcome, Mohali, and thank you for joining us today. Second up, we will have Rashen Maharaj. He's the Group Head of Properties and Facilities and Group Head of Procurement for Alexander Forbes. Thank you, Rashen, for joining us today and for your insights, which you'll share with us a little later. And lastly, but certainly not least, we have Yunus Mashaba, the Senior Real Estate Services Senior Manager for Real Estate Services Johannesburg for SASL. So we've got a really nice lineup. Thank you to all of you. Moving on, we are going to start with Mohali, and I'd like to give a little introduction to Mohali, and he will then take over from there. So Mohali is an experienced Chief Executive Officer with a demonstrated history of working in electrical and electronic manufacturing, skilled in feasibility studies, management, electricity, maintenance management, and project engineering. A strong business development professional, currently completing a master's in business administration. So he's got a lot on his plate, guys, and from the Graduate School of the University of Cape Town. Over to you, Mohali.
Lots in my hands indeed, but such is the nature of life. Thank you very much for that introduction. I think just to perhaps get going, welcome to everyone. Again, thanks once more for joining us. I'm just going to get right into it. I'm looking specifically at perhaps giving some insights around some of the technical aspects that we've put in place, I think specifically unique to Bidvest in general, around COVID-19 and how that's specifically come across to our various clients. Okay. So just in terms of a sort of background of where Bidvest FM fits in the Bidvest group, we're part of the facilities management cluster, and primarily in terms of our client base, it's all the way across from financial services, ITC, manufacturing, mining, and public sector, and some very diversified customers. One of the sort of key and critical elements, I think, around the new mechanisms of facilities management is an integrated model. This specific integrated model is then looking to leverage off various functions, various core competencies, various verticals, various departments within the facilities management space. And I think in the context of COVID itself, we've specifically looked at two elements, that integration around the prevention of the spread of this virus, and that's specifically looking at some of the asset management, maintenance, HVAC systems and the like, in terms of aligning to create cleaner environments, which would prevent the spread of this specific virus, and then also around the response when a specific event has occurred where someone unfortunately has been affected, around now looking at the, again, various elements of an integrated model to specifically look at how to return those specific work areas to be operational as quickly and efficiently as possible. To this end, I think just in terms of some of the commentary out there from the World Health Organization, and NICD and the like, there's some keywords that come out of many of the commentary. It's around prevention, preparedness, looking at how we can optimize and make our HVAC systems better around reducing the concentration of COVID-19. Also at the same time learning from lessons. So this sort of process itself has been a learning curve where there are certain interventions that get put in place, and based on their efficacy, one is able to leverage further or understand that we need to roll back and perhaps go back to the drawing board. Blended approaches, and I suppose from the facility side, specifically in engineering, ours is to now try and drive down the actual spread of the virus itself by putting as many interventions in place as we can on the back end. In terms of FM and the changes to the way of work, we understand now that there's a prevalence from working from home. Many companies are also looking going forward in terms of using various splits around whether or not people return to work altogether. There's reduced space usage, a lot of movement of people. There have been repeated lockdowns happening, fluctuations in business volumes in terms of trends. There's various spikes that occur within our specific realm, which does actually speak to the fact that potentially when it comes to some of the prevention protocols and prevention measures, these are not actually being undertaken consistently across the board. I mean, we are human beings after all. And I suppose most importantly is that all of these elements, all of the additional interventions have actually put cost pressures on clients, and there are certain commercial decisions that have to be made, which perhaps would not be relevant pre-March 2020. It's then our role from a facilities perspective to look at this realm and put in as much as we can to actually prevent the spread without necessarily breaking the back. So effectively, we're looking at value adding to these specific clients from the perspective of prevention of spread, but at the same time, making sure that that's as optimal from a cost perspective as possible. Some of the interventions we've looked at and put in place, specifically from our side, is looking specifically at, in this case, HVAC systems. Some of the prevention measures we've put in is, for example, we've increased the fresh air intakes. We're running HVAC systems in large buildings 24/7. So effectively increasing the number of air changes in specific buildings and specific work areas, so that when it comes to the spread of the virus, this is actually mitigated as much as possible. Naturally, every intervention has got pros and cons. And whilst we're making a safer work environment with the higher number of air changes, we'd appreciate that it does result in increased energy costs. Because we're also increasing the velocity of air within these spaces, we're actually, in a way, also making the COVID virus slightly more airborne because we're increasing its velocity. And unfortunately, with the fresh air systems being open at full intake, it does mean that the temperature control becomes a challenge both in the mornings and the afternoons. Our filters and diffusers are things we've also looked at in terms of now the specific technical aspects around changes in velocity of COVID and how these potential touch areas could be spreading surfaces. And to that end, there's additional cleaning that happens. Of course, these touch surfaces are now being cleaned quite vigorously at very high frequency. Unfortunately, the back end of that is an increased maintenance cost, which we now try and manage as efficiently as possible in terms of self-performing some of these tasks and ensuring that we have the necessary tools and equipment to undertake these. On the sort of further point now, looking outside of the specific engineering realm, there have been interventions on cleaning of surface areas regularly, additional hygiene consumables and the like, which will create a safer work environment. There's also a visual perception of cleanliness because quite regularly people are coming and cleaning surfaces. Unfortunately, on the back end is the fact that it does create staff inconvenience. You'll appreciate that it does mean every now and again someone is coming, cleaning your surfaces, cleaning your computer, and most of the time, given the new way of work, we are actually in meetings using these specific assets. So these cleaning frequencies do, of course, create challenges on the client side in particular. On top of that, from a reactive perspective, there's obviously a lot of effort in cleaning surfaces where a COVID case has actually occurred. This includes not only surfaces itself, but rather the diffusers, the filters, fogging of air handling units, any touch points and surfaces where there have been velocity changes, where there's a potential that there's a concentration of the virus. I've just shown some pictures here in terms of some of our staff actually doing these undertakings. I think just in terms of closing off what I suppose I can call a very high level sort of touch points around some of the interventions that can be put in place for COVID-19 and the positive and negatives that they actually bring across is that we would, I think from the facilities management, specifically engineering side, need to leverage on the positive, ensure that we are also openly communicating the negative. In terms of some of the pros and cons that we've spoken about, one would appreciate that certainly we've, for example, increased the number of air changes in order to stop the spread of the virus, but we are making people cold and very hot, for example, in the morning and the evening, because our temperature control is becoming a bit more challenging. And I think just in terms of that context, it's specifically important to understand that as facilities managers, we're no longer just janitorial services. Yes, certainly when it comes to certain specific verticals, engineering, for example, we're often not seen, but rather our function and our efficacy is around the operations and availability of assets and buildings. However, we have an influence especially in an integrated environment across all services and competencies in terms of responding to COVID itself. And more importantly, I think if we're able to balance the communication around interventions, the possible causes, the possible benefits to the broader client, we're able to actually have a sort of better perception around what we're doing and an understanding of the fact that perhaps a little bit of pain is actually leading to a better long-term and sustainable health situation for our clients. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Mohali, for that fantastic presentation. You really do know your stuff. You can just give it to us in really such fantastic, concise bits. And I think important for us to know that there are such high-level interventions that are going on behind the scenes, and there are things that we underestimate ourselves as doing all of the time. In this pandemic world and as FMs, and how we're aligning this with the boardroom and the advice we are giving people at boardroom level and board level. So thank you once again for that great input and presentation, Mohali. Next up, we have Rashen. As I said, Rashen is the group head of properties and facilities at Alexander Forbes, as well as procurement. He's going to talk to us today a little around how we strategically align ourselves with those at executive level in the role in which we play in facilities. And I can personally speak for Rashen and for his expertise in this particular field, because I have seen him actively at play, and really we really do have in all of our guest speakers people who do this as a practice daily. So thank you, Rashen, for joining us today, and over to you.
Oh, thanks, Yvette. Really appreciate it. Thank you for having me, Yvette and Gina, SAFMA team, and welcome to all. Looking forward to chatting about strategic alignment. So in essence, I have 4 simple steps that I've sort of learned across my journey on how to bring that strategic alignment into play. And the first one is the lay of the land. The second one is the vision. Third one is formation. And the fourth one is what I like to call knockout. And these 4 simple steps have evolved and helped me grow. And I've seen and taken these principles and applied them in the FM space, and I've also applied them in the procurement space. And it's helped me align and bring strategic alignment to those various departments. So I'll talk you through the steps. The lay of the land, and I've themed this knowledge is power. So it's important to always understand the lay of the land, understand your organization, understanding business needs, understanding business requirements, understanding what are the pain points, what are you doing wrong as a department, what do you need to correct as a department. And why I theme it knowledge is power is because when you start running the operations and when you implement innovative projects and when you want to put something forward, it's aligned to what the business wants and what they require and what they need you to do. And that's very important to understand. So again, knowledge is power, understanding business requirements, and that's the first one, which I've called lay of the land. The second one is the strategy, or which I like to call vision. And I've themed vision, without a vision, we lack sight. Because if you don't understand what goal we're working to, you'll never be able to work towards that goal, right? And it's important to understand what you're working to. So why I followed this 4-step approach is understanding the lay of the land informs the strategy, and it informs the vision. Once you understand the lay of the land, you can then develop a vision and a strategy. And it's important to develop one, as I said, without vision, you lack sight. And at least you have a goal to work towards. The third one is formation. And for me, this is the most important part of the sort of steps, right? It's vital. Understanding the team and how best to play that team. For example, there's a team of soccer players. You would never take a person whose strengths are in defense and put them into a striking position, right? Because they'll always be defending. So it's important to understand what your requirements are, what your vision is, and then how to position the team correctly so that they can deliver on the vision that you're trying to achieve that will meet business requirements, right? And I've just listed 3 things that I wanted to talk about in the structure. So team is being positioned to the strengths and their expectations. Who is who and what's what? And the reason why I've written that is a lot of the time we're part of a team, but we don't know when to pass the ball. Often you get the defender running all the way from defense line into the striking position, and he's getting fatigued, and we're exhausting him, and that performance play out, right? And we often have that with staff member. You get the guys that are outshining, that are trying to do good work in the space, and they often don't know when to pass the ball. So it's important to understand the boundary, understand when you need to pass the ball, when it's your time to play, what is your team's strength, and when to play them at the right time, right? And it's almost like setting up, it's almost like being a coach and setting up the team to deliver on what you want them to deliver. And the last one is I call knockout. And the reason I call it knockout is if you've done all the work, you've understood the business requirements, you've created the vision, you've given the team the correct formation, going into operations and knocking it out the park would be easy because you've done the work, you've put in the time, and you understand what is required for you to deliver, right? And that will help you, number one, change the perception of the procurement environment. Number two, it'll help you bring impact and great impact into the organization because you're meeting business requirements in your everyday activities. And it's important to understand these 4 key steps in our line of work, because if you look at the FM environment, there's 1,000 touch points, and clients use our services from the time they walk into the building. So from the time they access or swipe their access card to the security guard who's greeting them, from the time they walk into reception, how clean that reception place is, if there's flowers on the table, how well the receptionist received them, to the visitors coming through. And they experience that journey, and facilities is an environment that you will only know that you're not doing your work when it's not going well, right? And as soon as they understand and they have that good customer experience, you're doing your work. But the point I'm trying to make is that there's so much day-to-day activities in the facilities environment that often we get involved in the day-to-day operations, and we have an inability to step back and understand what we need to deliver that's going to make a high impact on business. So again, in closing, I'll just reiterate those 4 steps. It's the lay of the land, the vision, the formation, and the knockout. And I think that these 4 steps have helped me to overcome and be impactful in various environments, not only property and facilities, but also in procurement. I've recently just taken over the procurement division, and I've applied the same principles, and they seem to be working really well. So this is my magic formula that I wanted to share with you guys today. It's a simple 4-step process, and I hope it helps you. And that's me. Thanks, Yvette.
Thank you so much, Rashane, for your insight and for all that you shared with us, and a really nice recipe for success, I think, in this ever-changing world that we are facing as FMs. I think we need to know, in terms of how our spaces are changing, how we're going to be using less of our properties, what are the things we need to align with those people at executive and boardroom level. And these kind of steps help us to forge forward and really get to where we need to be strategically with our clients and customers. So thank you very much for your insights, Rashane. And I'm sure there'll be some questions later. So next up, and certainly not least, is Eunice from Sasol, who has a very interesting story and a incredibly interesting building. Eunice is the Senior Manager of Real Estate Services for Johannesburg Sasol. She is, in her role, she manages corporate buildings, industrial plants, recreational and housing facilities within Gauteng, Mpumalanga, Free State, and London. This has equipped her with the skills and integrated knowledge to implement strategic facilities management. And so we look forward to hearing from you more specifically around your topic of customer centricity. So over to you, Eunice, and welcome and thank you.
Thank you, Yvette. Good afternoon to Yvette, Gina, the Gauteng chapter, and all the attendees. I'm not sure if you can see my screen.
Yes, we can. Thank you so much, Eunice.
Okay, thank you. As Yvette already mentioned, that the topic that I'll be talking about today is customer centricity. And I think the reason why I chose this topic to talk about, especially now that we are going through COVID, and also how do we relate, how do we work with our customers during this difficult time that we are going through. So I prepared some slides that I'm going to discuss today. And then for me, the most important thing is Jeff Bezos has already mentioned. He said, you know what, imagine what is that one thing that your customers on the day one, the feeling of day one, when they walk into your organization, what is it that you want to leave with them? The excitement that it will live with them forever. And I think in the facilities management, that's one thing that we all striving for it on a daily basis, to say, as a facility manager, what is it that I want to offer my customers, that even if things go wrong, especially now during COVID, but they will always remember something that we have done for them. So for me, it's a customer service. It worked closely with employee value
apologies,
proposition.
Eunice, apologies, sorry. Could we just ask you to put your presentation on presentation mode? It just makes it clearer for us to see. So sorry about that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let me stop sharing so I can share again. It's not coming, I'm not sure why. Yvette, is it okay now?
That is absolutely perfect. Thank you, Eunice. Sorry to have interrupted you.
No problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So as I was saying, that customer centricity for me, it works closely with employee value proposition, because that's where you add value to your customers that you are servicing on a daily basis. And by saying that, what do we mean when we say customer centricity? It means sticking closely to your customers. And who are those customers, especially in the workplace? We talk about the building users, the experience that you give them in their career life while they're working in the organization. And there are things that we already look at, said, what are the benefits of customer centricity? And for us, especially in SASOL, we look at promoting new value. And how do you promote that new value? You promote the value through monitoring and nurturing the services that you are giving to your customers on a daily basis. And the other benefits that we look at is increasing existing customer value. And how do you increase the existence of the existing customers? Is to make sure that you have the metrics that you monitor. You've got the survey that you do with your customers, so that the customers can give you feedback to say, this is no longer working for us. Can we look at something different that you can offer us in order to increase the value that you're providing to us? And lastly, we try to reduce churn of our customers, because if I look my portfolio, how we manage it, we've got Sentin building, which is our head office, but we also have customers that are in Sekunda, that are in Sasolburg, and there are other facilities in Sasolburg that they can go to get the service from. But how do we make sure that we reduce that they don't leave us as real estate services? So what we do, we ensure that all the time, the product that we are offering is relevant to the customers that we are working with on a daily basis. So that's what we do. And also as facilities management department, what role that we play into the bigger strategy of the organization. So we do that through employee value proposition. We do that via the services that we are offering to our customers on a daily basis, to make sure that we add value to the organization with everyone that we are working with on a daily basis. They understand exactly what value we are adding into the organization. And then from there, we have the real estate services charter that we work with on a daily basis to ensure that the customers understand exactly what we are working with on a daily basis. So from the real estate services charter, there are service charter that we look at on a daily basis, which is sustainability. And for me, what is it that we talk about when we talk about sustainability? Is the portfolio that we have to make sure that it's value-driven cost model that we offer. If you look at it, my colleagues also touch on the other services that are offering, but we ensure that we are compliant to safety, health, and environment. That's one thing that we take pride at SASOL when we offer the service to our customers on a daily basis, to make sure that safety comes first for us in everything that we are doing. And we also have infrastructure and workplace. So we make sure that we provide the infrastructure that are safe, that deliver the desires building users on a daily basis on what we are doing, because that improves the customer centricity to the building users. And we also look at people, because if we don't look after the people, the team that I work with, that I ensure that all the services that we are offering go smooth, nothing will go right. So we always look after the team that we work with within the facilities management team. And then we also look at the processes. As Yvette, you already mentioned that my portfolio is so diverse that we don't only look at one building. So we make sure that we standardize the processes that we have, so that even if you move, you go to Modderfontein, or you go to London, you're going to get the same experience that you can get in our head office on a daily basis. And also to make sure that we enable the fit for purpose technology. The technology that we use, doesn't matter where you are based, you can use the technology anywhere where you are, as well as the measurement. So we measure the performance that we offer on a daily basis. And how do we measure that performance? It's through the stakeholder management. So we have the stakeholder meetings with both our internal and external stakeholders that we work with. And then we also have the data, especially the service providers. Most of our offerings, we get them through our service providers. So we've got on a monthly basis, the SLA meetings that we have with the service providers, where we also look at the data to say, are they delivering based on what we have agreed in the contract? So that's what we look at on a daily basis. As well as now as real estate services, these are some of the offerings, the employee value added facilities that we offer to the team. And especially now during COVID, it's difficult to offer some of these, but there are some that you can still enjoy, although you are working from home. The day people visit the building, they can see that. Especially, I'm going to touch on the fitness center, because since COVID have started, the fitness center has been closed. But we are offering the online fitness, where we had an engagement with the service provider to say, since people won't be able to come into the building, can we offer the fitness center where the employees can still enjoy, although they are working from home, they can still enjoy some of the offerings that we are offering on a daily basis. As well as how do we distinguish between customers and building users? So on our side, our customers are more the SASOL business units, because we manage a lot of business units within the facilities management. And then who are our building users? So the building users are SASOL staff that come to the building on the daily basis. And then it is our visitors and our service providers, because like our service providers, we treat them like our own employees, because without them, there's no way that we can offer the service that we are offering on a daily basis. And then how do we maintain the customer centricity during COVID? Because like now, most people are working from home. Yes, we have rosters where people come into the building. So for us, we offer this through providing sanitizers and hygiene services. And these, we also provide the employees to use at home. So employees who say that I will work from home permanently, we allow them to come into the building, to come and take the sanitizers that they can use at home, and some of the hygiene consumables. They come and take the mask that they can use with their families. We provide them with the stationery so that they can use them at home. Even the furniture, to say that we want our employees, even if they're sitting at home, to still experience the same services that they were experiencing when they're in the building. Then we allow the employees to say, you can come into the building, you can come and take the furniture so that you are comfortable, you can still deliver the service that you were delivering in the office at the comfort of your home, and you don't feel the difference, whether you're at home or you're in the office. And we also have COVID protocols that we adhere to on the daily basis. And we also share with our employees, where, especially when COVID started, there's a lot of information that on a weekly basis we're sharing with the employees so that they can understand exactly the impact of COVID and how they can prevent it for them and their families. So that is the most important thing. Even when you walk into our building, in many spaces, we put posters where we remind our employees on the daily basis that you must wash your hand, make sure that you're wearing the mask, make sure that you wipe your desk. In all our desks, for those who are coming into the building, you will find a sanitizer and a cloth that you can use on the daily basis. You can go and do your screening. No one even screen you. There's a camera where it screen you and give you the result. You can do it so many times during the day. And those are some of the things that we've put in place, especially now, where we say that 1 day feeling of excitement when you walk in the building. So we still try to do that even during now that we are going through COVID. And then in conclusion, giving your customer the right customer experience, is it enough? And what do we mean when we say that, is it enough? Customers need to be amazed and get a smile on their face when they receive your product or services. And how are you going to do that? So there's a lot of things that we look at in order for us to give that. Then we look at customer experience. What is it that the customers are experiencing? Remember when I talk about how do we reduce the churning, how do we keep the existing customers? So that customer experience, that's when we talk to our customers through different platforms. It can be the survey, it can be during the stakeholder engagement that we have with them, where we ask, what is your experience? Where do you think we can change? And customer relationship, we try by all means all the time that we build the relationship with both our internal and external customers that we work with. And customer lifestyle. What do we mean by customer lifestyle? We understand, we meet with the customer so that we can understand exactly what is it that they want to see on the daily basis that we need to do for them, that it can improve their lifestyle when they're in the building. For an example, before COVID, that's when we work closely with the wellness team together with the restaurant to say what kind of meals that we can offer that it's healthy meals that can help our customers that we work with on a daily basis. And customer engagement as well. We engage as often as we can with our customers, and customer value to say, are you happy with the value? Are you happy with what we are offering? Or is there anything else that we can offer? So that's all that I have for today. And thank you very much for listening.
Hello, everyone. Am I visible to everyone? I can't see myself.
Yes, you are.
Yes, you are.
Okay, thank you for that. I just want to thank you, Eunice, for the powerful presentation. I could feel it in your voice, the passion that you have for caring for not only FM, but the users and your relationships within FM. So that was really, really impactful. I really enjoyed that. And that's really one recipe to excel in FM, is to really win the hearts of those that you serve and those that you work hand in hand with. So thank you very much. And to just thank all our speakers. That was the last speaker for the day. Thank you very much to everybody that's spoken. Rashen, Moholi, I personally grabbed a few items from your goodie bag of what you've spoken about. Thank you. That was really, really insightful. At this moment, I think I posted a question. I posted a note in the chat box to say that as I reflect on everyone speaking, is that you're welcome to post some more questions as I speak, and we will take all of those and the speakers will respond to that. And to maybe just go back to Moholi, who was our first speaker, is there is a question addressed to you in the chat box, and that question came from Vainant, which you did answer, but would like you to please just expand a little bit on that. And I'll try to summarize his question. What his question was, the challenges for these clients. Do these companies inform their employees of these proactive measures to entice them to return to the office and feel safe? What is your view on that, Moholi?
Thanks, Glenna. I think, I hope everyone can hear me. I think it's a very pertinent question, and I'll answer this in sort of two elements, but I'll try and be as brief as possible. I think one of the sort of key messages I was trying to get across is the fact that we are driving perceptions from the FM perspective, not only with our clients, but with our clients' employees as well. So if one contextualizes, for example, a loss operation at a specific site, some of the most key information that helps the sort of client base actually understand and get confidence in the fact that something's been done is what has happened, where has it happened, what are we doing about it, and how long are we going to take to resolve the issue, excuse me, and when's the next update. And I think this relates in a way to your question, Vaynant, because I would actually argue and advance that we are part of the people or part of the function that needs to feed into expressing some of the elements that are in place, some of the interventions that are in place, the efficacy of these interventions, what considerations were actually undertaken prior to putting these interventions down, specifically when it comes now to getting that sort of authoritative function from a relational perspective to the staff. And I think that said, the reality of the matter is that the workplace of the future is not going to be the same as the past. I have no doubt in my mind that many companies are still going to opt for a more hybrid way of work, which would then mean even our facilities management scope is likely to expand beyond the sites or the corporate sites that we're currently managing, and may at some point actually include certain individuals' homes for certain assets that the companies may be extending to them, UPSs, generators, etc., etc. But yeah, we're part of the sort of solution in terms of that, and it's about making sure that accurate, very detailed information is going through to the client around these interventions, around the safety measures, around the efficacy, and around what we've effectively done in order to actually ensure a safe work environment.
Thank you for that, Holly. That was quite a nice one, and I hope, Vaynant, you answered in that regard. I will go to the second question that was posed to you, and that question, Moholi, came from Papi, and his question was around the UVC, and just for the benefit of everyone to expand on that, short word is speaking on air conditioning. So what his question was, what is your view on far UVC? And have you tried and piloted this in terms of COVID-19 prevention?
Okay, so let me start by contextualizing that. What we found from experience perspective is that some of the best and most effective solutions when it comes to COVID-19 are actually the simplest. Believe it or not, some of the best and most effective cleaning mechanisms are soap and water. Chemicals, etc., may have certain specific benefits, but they also come with lots of bad conditions that they bring about. When it comes to far UVC, it's certainly something that we've looked at, and we've looked at quite vigorously, just in terms of the fact that it's a non-intrusive mechanism to clean the surfaces. What we have found is that it's a very expensive deployment, and just in terms of the fact that it's so expensive, it could be debilitating. And one of the sort of elements that, unfortunately, at this point in time, we still don't have a sort of answer to, because it's relatively new technology, is around the fact that you're effectively putting people in contact with UV light for extended periods of time. And is there any health impact on doing that for prolonged periods of time on human beings? So I think to sort of answer your question in summary is, yes, it's certainly something that's been looked at. It is a technology that's being touted worldwide. However, from my personal perspective, I think it's expensive, complex, and there's that one element of the fact that we don't at this point 100% understand the impact on human beings of extended use.
Thank you very much, Mpoli. I think I can attest to that as well, and especially any other FM person can attest to that, is that given the times that we find ourselves in, there's been so much marketing on different air purifying systems. There's said to be many. We've even heard that some can cure COVID, which you know very well. Doctors could not even confirm that. So like you said in the chat box, the jury is out there to actually verify all these, the health concerns around UVCs and any other air purification systems. So thank you for that. And Mohole, I think I'll wrap it up there with your question is just to give Rashen a chance to attend to some of his question, and just to reflect before I get to Rashen, is that Rashen gave us quite a winning recipe for succeeding in FM as well. He touched on the 3 key points, which is the layer of land, the vision, and the knockout, which I found really quite insightful and is something I'm taking away. And given your position, Rashen, heading up both procurement and facilities, I think that is actually one key winning aspect in terms of succeeding in FM, because those two put together is futuristic for me. It's really 2 aspects that really should marry for FM to continue to succeed in terms of spend, strategies, and policies. So thank you for that. Rashen, I'm just going to go into the chat box to answer the question that was posted by one of the attendees. And the question, Rashen, is from Papi. And Papi is asking that with reduced income, especially on commercial properties, owners are bent on driving op costs down and perhaps the cost of asset preservation and performance. What would the speaker's advice be on this challenge? Over to you, Rashen.
Thanks, Gina. So Papi, it's a difficult question, right? But I think it's how you look at the scenario. It is a problem for all of us in all of our environments where, not only the FN environment reducing costs, but many other facets of the business have stretched targets and need to reduce their cost base, right? And I think, the question you asked, what stood out for me was that you're reducing cost or the ops costs at the point of injuring or damaging the asset, or affecting the asset. And I can tell you what we've done in our space. And that's why I started by opening up and saying, you need to look at it in a different lens. And what we've done is we're not owners of properties, but we're obligated into a lease, right? Into a lease of a premises that we cannot get out of. And we need to fulfill that rental obligation on a monthly basis, and we're not using that premises. So what we done was, we are FM operators, and we saw this as an opportunity, and we started obviously renting out the space. And a lot of other FMs have been, or corporate FMs have been renting out the ample space, but we've looked at other things other than just renting out the space. So we've got large basement floors in our buildings, and we know that green farming and farming in urban areas is up and coming, and we looked at chatting to Centricity, and we looked at farming, I think it was mushrooms in the lower basements. And the reason for that is you didn't need to change the setup you don't need to change the setup much, because mushroom farming requires a dark, cold place, and that worked for that environment, right? And essentially what we were doing is we were selling a square meter of a mushroom farm to anyone, and we could sell that to even our staff members or even anyone beyond our staff members. And essentially they're renting a space and we're managing it on their behalf, and they get at any time they can go and collect mushrooms from that area, right? We've looked at chatting to the signage and branding companies. And what we've done is we've put digital signage on the outside of our buildings. We've managed to generate a revenue from that. So there's various ways which you can look at it. And I think, you'd need to find something that is unique to yours, but look at this problem as an opportunity and how you can make best of this opportunity. I hope that answers you, Papi. Gina?
Thank you very much, Rashen. That does answer me, and I hope it answers Papi as well. Rashen, I've got another question for you. I've been picking on what you've been saying, and touching on spend. I just wanted to check with you. Have you reflected on your spend as a result of COVID-19 in comparison to other years, which is pre-March 2020, and what conclusions have you drawn?
So yes, we've reflected on our spend, and this actually started prior to COVID. And I'd like to theme the saying by Benjamin Disraeli. You know, when the success lies in readiness, when the opportunity arises, one must be ready. What had happened in the Alexander Forbes space is we had sold off a lot of our businesses, and we were already facing cost pressures prior to COVID. And one of the questions we asked the business was, can you work from home? With the intent of reducing the office space. But at the same time, we had the challenge or the dynamics of dealing with the lease that we are contracted into and we cannot get out of. You know, and I've spoken to how we've generated external revenue from that to relieve us from that obligation. But what we done was we went around prior to COVID and we understood from each executive, what is the requirement? What's the future of the business? Where are we going? And what was the common theme that came out was, I want a flexible workspace environment, because how property and facilities work, and we all know this, is that our costs are then shared and split amongst the business. And business have to contend with these costs, you know, in their pricing to organizations. And the lower their costs, the better they are and the more competitive they are when they do tender. So our initial strategy was developed prior to COVID. What COVID came and done was it enhanced that. And what essentially we found was we created offices that became a destination point. We were initially pushing to get a work from home prior to the COVID pandemic. And COVID then accelerated that. And it was easy for us. And that's why I've themed it, you know, success lies in readiness, because we were ready by collecting, by interviewing, by understanding what was business's requirements. We just didn't have the opportunity to implement it. And when COVID came, we implemented that opportunity. So essentially what we've done, Gina, is we've reduced the office space to become a point of destination. So it's not a place of work anymore, right? And it's almost like a slow launch concept where you come in and you do what you need to do in the space and you move on, and your new work from home is the actual home environment that you go into, right? What we've done is also enabled our colleagues to work from home by providing them knowledge on how to set up. We've allocated out furniture that we were not using that was in our existing buildings. And through this, Gina, we've managed to reduce our cost base. So essentially, where leases have come up for renewals, we've consolidated majority of our properties in South Africa and one in Namibia. We're looking at the other SADC regions at the moment. To approximately an average of 60 to 70%. Now that's a massive saving to the organization, and it lends well, especially in this time, because everybody is in survival mode, right? What do we need to survive, to sustain ourselves through this pandemic?
Thank you very much for that, Rashen. And just to flow from what you've just explained to us in terms of space required as well for employees. We find ourselves, corporates have had to shrink spaces from whether subletting or giving away space or just finding smaller buildings. There's an interesting question from our Rudam who's actually asking along those lines. And his question is, with the challenge with working from home, have you dealt with any challenges in terms of defining minimum viable space required for employees?
Yeah, sorry, go for it, Gina.
So in other words, have you had to determine minimum space for employees, give away space, or what challenges have you faced to get to minimum space required for employees?
Yeah. So what we done is, as I said, we understood what was the requirements, and I think the easiest way for us to establish minimum space requirement so that we could get to that sweet spot and not consolidate to a point when we pass the COVID period and everybody wants to come back into the office was understand the circulation flow. And we understood the circulation flow prior to COVID, and we understood the circulation flow in COVID. And now we've got a grasp of what the circulation flow, and we're forecasting that with a bit of a 20% growth on that into the new circulation flow that we predict will be after COVID, or when everybody's vaccinated and we can go back to some sort of office environment. And understanding the circulation flow is vitally important. And what do I mean by that? So Rashen comes into the office at 8 o'clock. He goes out at 9 o'clock and he's seeing clients, and then he only comes back at 3 o'clock. From 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock, he's answering emails. but we've got a dedicated space for him, and Roshan is in that, Roshan is not utilizing that space. So understanding that circulation flow is very important. So essentially Roshan is only using 30% of that office space in a month, right? And that's what we've managed to establish and identify. And that's helped us find the sweet spot of what's the minimum requirement. And we've taken the minimum requirement and added a 20% onto that for growth. I hope that answers you, Gina.
That certainly does. Thank you very much for that. I'm just going to go to Eunice, and just to reflect on Eunice, for just to summarize her topic was customer centricity, and we saw the passion that she spoke from in harboring the relationship of customers, clients, and just business as a whole. So Eunice, there was a question projected to you in the chat, and that was relating to KPIs. It came from Anonymous, and the question was, are there any KPI tools or applications you make use to rate your service providers and service delivery compared to the SLA?
Pardon again, Gina, I lost you there.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, there was a question directed to you in the chat box, and it comes from Anonymous. Anonymous is asking, are there any tools or applications you make use of to rate your service provider's delivery compared to the SLA?
Yes, yeah. So we do have the tools that we have developed at Gina, that we rate is from 0 to 100, and then we do the scoring on a monthly basis. So what we do, we look at the contract. So we take the contract that we have between us and our service provider, and then we develop the metrics and the ratings from that. So on a monthly basis, what we do, we allow the service provider to rate themselves, and then from there they come, we sit with them, where we do the ratings based on the service that they've offered, and in terms of quality that they've provided, in terms of the inspections, because we also do inspections. We've got the team on a daily basis that walk around the building, do the inspections together with the service providers on the work that they have done. And then from there, we log those calls on the system. So that also helps us, is one of the tools that we use, where we pull on a monthly basis to say how many deviations that was logged by the facilities team, besides the one that are logged by the end users or the building users. So that's what that's one of the tools that we use that help us to manage the service provider, as well as we do the walkabout, where management do the monthly walkabout in the building, where will also management identify some of the things that will also take it up with the management of the service providers. So there's a lot of interventions and a lot of tools that we work with on a daily basis that help us to measure the service that we are receiving from our service provider. Same with the building users. We do send every now and then the surveys where they rate us to say, how do we manage the building? So on each customers that we have, especially the business units, there are some SLA agreement that we have with them, and then we meet with them. So we have the OME and the facilities team split, where we said, according to the split of what we are managing from our side, can you rate us? Can you tell us where we are doing right or where we need to improve?
Thank you very much, Eunice. It sounds like you check box your service providers in every aspect, from walkabout to SLAs to contracts to that's really good good tools to keep your service providers in check. And now more than ever during COVID-19 is where they need to be probably excelling to make sure that your building is taken care of. Thank you for that. Sorry?
No, I was saying definitely.
Okay, thank you for that answer. That was great. Just to expand on your topic as well, customer centricity. I just wanted to find out, and in line with our theme, is that how do we change the perception of our customers in a COVID-19 pandemic? And just to elaborate on that, we find ourselves, I think probably now again more than ever, is facilities has been one aspect where has almost been made redundant because of office closures or because people have been working from home. How do we maintain our relevance in a time where people are working from home, or at a time where people have a perception that is facilities really required when everyone is not in the building? What's your view on that?
Thank you for that, Athena. So from our side, definitely the COVID have created a lot of uncertainty around, and especially for us, the facilities management team, because that's where you get asked to say, what is your team doing that now people are working from home? But what we have done on our side, the first thing is to ensure that our customers are safe, and whether even if they're working from home. And how did we do that? We did it through the support of information and educating, where we started educating our customers that even although you're working from home, you need to look after your surroundings that you are working in, because there was a time where we were receiving a lot of complaints about the back pain that people they're experiencing since they're working from home. Some of them, they're getting sick from there. They will receive communication that they're going to the doctors every day because they're getting sick. So we started educating our employees on how do you look after yourself when you are sitting, when you are at home, to make sure that you have a good chair to sit on. And by doing that, we allow employees to come and fetch the chairs so that we become relevant, although people are working from home. And then also for them to adopt to the new technology that currently we are using, because when you're working from home, everything had to change. The things that they used to have in the building, they never had. So we partnered with our IM department, with our SHE department, to make sure that, you know what, I said from my side, I will be able to provide the employees with the chairs. Some of them, they will even ask for a desk. But can you provide them with the screen? And then also we educate our employees the lighting that they require when they're working from home, because some of them, they're complaining about the eyes, so that their eyes are itching or their eyes are sore. And then we also, one of the things that we did as well, when you're in the work environment, you've got the HVAC, as Moholi have touched on the HVAC, and then at home, you don't have the HVAC. So we did a lot of the safety moment where we were educating the team to say that you need to understand that most of you don't have the HVAC at home. So please make sure that every now and then you go outside, you get the sun, and also to help you, because when you're in the office, it's easy because you can go to the kitchen, you're stretching, you can go to the bathroom, you're stretching, but at home, everything is around you. So all our safety moment that we used to post, we post the safety moment that will help the employees to start changing how they are doing things on a daily basis that can help, that can add value. As much as we are not there with them physically, but we give them the tips that they can use on a daily basis to help them to work smooth even when they're working from home. As well as we have the COVID committee, where facilities management was part of that COVID committee, where we add information of what is it that we need to do that can change the way people are working from when they are working at home. So those are some of the interventions that we've put in place to change the perception of the customers.
Thank you very much, Eunice. That was really great. There was another question, last question from Renee, is a little spin-off from our facilities. And I don't know about everybody else, but part of my duties is to, I take care of the health and safety on all our premises as well. So Eunice, interesting question is that who takes responsibility when people are working from home? Who takes responsibility for their health and safety? And how do we deal with injuries on duties at home, compliance to ergonomics, electrical and civil issues? Just briefly on that in the interest of time. Thank you.
Okay, so from our side, what we have done, we have developed a checklist that we have given to the employees. So on the daily basis, the employees must complete that checklist. So the checklist, mostly it's covered the COVID, do you have this? And then after that, it covers it's a mini pre-task risk assessment that you do when you're at home, and also to report the near misses, because we encourage employees to report the near misses when they are working from home. And also, and that's the reason why previously I said we issued the employees with the checks, because we had a lot of complaints. But you sign the indemnity form when you take that check, because it becomes your responsibility when you are working from home. So I understand there's a thin line between is this injury for work or is this injury for me from home? And that's the reason we developed the checklist, where the employees on a daily basis, they have to tick on the checklist, so that if something goes wrong, we will investigate. We work closely with the SHE team, where we will sit down with the SHE team, where we'll do the safety stand down if we have to, or we'll do the investigation based on what the team have. The employee will tell us how did the incident happen. Sometimes we'll ask the team member to come to our wellness center to be checked by our doctor, because you find that maybe someone have tripped and fall. It can become serious. So before end of shift, that employee must come into the building to be checked, and then we classified that injury.
Thank you very much.
I answered the question.
Yes, you did. You did. You've just closed it. You've closed it with a bang. And thank you very much for that. It's 13:10, brings us actually to the end of our session. I'd like to extend our appreciation and a big thank you to everybody that's joined us today. A very big thank you to all our speakers today. Like I said, we all have picked a lot from your baskets of wealth of information. Thank you so much. And just to run down, that was Maj Majola from Bidvest. That was Eunice Mashaba from Cecil, and Rashen from Alexander Forbes FM. A big thank you to SAFMA for organizing this event. I think our chairman is also on here. The Gauteng chapter chairman is also on here. And I want to say thank you for organizing and assisting us with this event. And just to say, I mean, we all had a lot of insights, and just to mention that the views of our speakers are theirs and not necessarily of the SAFMA or this Gauteng chapter's views. And with that, I just want to close off with something that I picked up from today, and that those were words from Rashen, which says, success lies in readiness, and when the opportunity arises, one must be ready. I think it speaks to our topic today, as in changing our perception of FM in industry with clients and our service providers. So success to everyone, and let the opportunity meet us ready. Thank you to everybody. We're closing.